Toon Cartoons.
And more, you might adopt it. Fit and more
Welcome back to 5 years of the Owl House. So, who are the new characters supposed to be? Well, hello, MerCat. It is I, Ada. So, today we are going to be reacting to the Owl House Disneycember. So, let's get to it. Action.
It's so weird to think years after Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, these series that practically invented a new genre, there still technically isn't a name for that genre. I always just kind of called them cartoon epics because it's not like Batman.
Ooh, that's pretty much the epic ones.
It's supposed to look
very
cute.
Cute.
These are clearly cartoons. The features are exaggerated, usually for comedic effect. Zany slapstick can happen and so forth, but in the long run, it slowly reveals itself as a big epic story. The Owl House definitely falls into that category, and as these cartoon epics go, this is probably the fastest I got into one of these shows. Luce is an awkward teenager who's into awkward things and sadly can't make any friends. Which,
Still living in the human world.
You're telling me this
like
kid
always
couldn't make friends with these type of kids or these type of kids or any of these types you see at any school? Well, anyway, her mother is sending her to a camp that's hopefully gonna make her more normal, but when she accidentally stumbles into a fantasy world called the Boiling Isles, she decides to spend her summer there, hoping her mother never puts together that she's not actually a kid.
Pretty much the human world.
An adorable nobody knows what named King.
So very
a
cute.
obnoxious door knocker named Hootie, and several other witches, demons, and just all-around strange creatures. If you've been watching my reviews and you know what I like, you can probably tell I gravitated towards this world right away. It's funny, one of the subplots in the show is about combining different elements because that's probably what I like the most about this show. On top of it being very, very funny and having very likable characters, the premise seems to be all about combining things that have been done before, but putting them together to make something new. And I love when a show does this. To me, it feels like a mix
Pretty
between
much
Kiki's
exactly
Delivery
that
Service
is.
and Beetlejuice. It has the heart and wonder of Kiki, but also the
Still
dark
got the
twisted humor
horror.
of Beetlejuice. Honestly, this would probably be my favorite out of all the cartoon epic series if it wasn't for just one thing that drove me absolutely insane. But we'll get to that in a bit. And honestly, I don't think it's going to bother other people as much as it does me. The characters, on top of being really, really funny, are pretty instantly likable. Even ones you're not supposed to like, for the most part, evolve in a way where they become really complex and interesting. Ida is an outlaw who's constantly on the run, but at the same time is always selling human stuff. It's almost like Little Mermaid, how she misinterprets what everything is. So Luce constantly explains what everything is, while Ida
Still
thinks
with the
that she's
human
all about
collectible supposed to
I always
get
love
on
the
my
setup
own.
that a person showing you this kind of dangerous world is also
That's-
kind of a dangerous
that's weird,
person
you know?
herself. She's a charlatan. She breaks the rules, and sometimes they're good rules to break, and sometimes they're not very good rules to break. Combining that with Luce's constant need to want to discover and explore, it just leads to this really great, creative, and fun world to explore. What I really like about this show is, unlike a lot of shows I've been talking about recently, where they'll kind of have a really underwhelming first season where they just stay in one spot, here, they definitely have a spot they return to with the Owl House, which on its own is actually
That's
very
cool.
imaginative and holds a bunch of secrets. But they'll
They'll
still
learn the
venture out
legacy
and go
thing.
to different places. Some of them are a little familiar, like there is a witch school, which is very clearly Hogwarts.
So very
And yeah, that's
witches.
not really my
A
thing, but
comic
I will
book.
admit what they do with it is funny. They even do make some good jokes about Hogwarts in there. My stuff is more when they go to different places that have different creatures and even learn different types of magic. I really love what they do with the world building where Luz actually figures out a different way to use this magic. It's a little complicated to explain, and I guess I don't want to give away too much, but it ties into drawing, which is really great for Luz because she obviously loves to do drawings and fan art and stuff. And it's also great because she has to discover it. Ida kind of teaches her, kind of gives her a few ideas, but then she kind of evolves it. There's a lot of things that work that way, where again, you're taking these different elements that you're familiar with, but you combine them in a way that hasn't been combined before, and you make something that's really exciting, fun, and new. A few shows where I was more okay with the social dilemmas and the side adventures than I was with the overall big story. There's a little bit of a mystery of where King comes from, and honestly, the reveal is good. I mean, he does have a good backstory, but if you never ever told me what his backstory was, I'd be okay with it. The character is just so likable, and I love seeing him interact with everybody.
That is so exactly. I like my very way to do that.
Gonna be one note and boring really come around and become some of the best things in the show. Like, look at this character named Amity. Just from that intro, don't you immediately know what this character is gonna be? She's gonna be the bully. She's gonna be the Malfoy or the It Punch. Just the characters that are there to only be the antagonist. Nothing interesting at all. But not only do they give her a tragic backstory that ties into her parents, which, yeah, okay, we've seen something like that before, but they also give her a love interest, which, okay, that's two things that you've seen in other series before.
Still got a very interesting things to do that.
Usually just a side bully character, and it's all done in the first season, suddenly transforms her from being the least interesting character to the most interesting character. I like her connection with her parents. I find it interesting. Her little crush that she's afraid to tell is also really kind of adorable. Even when some series do decide to finally evolve their villains, in my opinion, they're usually done too late. Like Malfoy, again, is done in, like, what, movie 6? So you got, like, 5 movies of him being a complete drag. But here, it feels right she should start off as kind of the snobby bully and evolve over the first season. She doesn't feel like
that
she's there
sounds amazing.
She is a fully fleshed out character. Which is more than I can say for the main villain of the show. Okay, let me get to the one thing I really didn't care for in this series. I don't like Bellows. Bellows is the big bad guy of the series, and maybe 20 years ago he would have worked, but nowadays he's just Mum-Ra, the Horned King, the Fire Lord. Villains that worked fine in those properties years ago, but nowadays is just an irredeemable monster that's clearly trying to tie into the commentary the show is trying to get across. I found this aggravating for 3 reasons. One, like I said, I think he's boring. Near the end, they kind of have fun.
There's no need to worry about that too.
PG-13 territory, but for the most
Still
part,
definitely a horrible
fight.
fight.
Second, I thought the show was doing much better with its commentary when it wasn't being so direct. For example, Ida has a curse in this show, and she has to learn how to live with it. The people around her have to learn how to live with it. And there's a lot of ways you could interpret that. You can interpret that as a physical disease, or a mental disease, or even just being socially awkward, or not fitting in, or trying to figure out how to fit in. There's so many ways you could interpret it. And there's a lot of commentary like that in this. Things kind of have this broad range. With Bellows, there's only one thing he could represent, and it's so on the nose, and you get it the first time you see him, yet you have to go through half the series with them hammering in this message. And I just don't feel like they're adding anything that new to it. Third, so much of
That's
the
definitely the
lich. By its
lich.
cover, Luz comes to this scary, creepy place, but there's actually a lot of charm to it and a lot
Sounds
of good
a
to
little
it.
bit
And
to
it's
me.
all about accepting others and finding different
Wow,
points of
that's
view.
very
Maybe people
mythical.
you think are scary aren't scary.
I guess
And
Luz
except
is
for that
really
guy,
like to enjoy
yeah,
this
he looks like a
time.
monster. He is a monster. Don't even trust him for a second. There's no good.
Oh, definitely
They
not
have
a
a way
good
to show
thing,
the
no?
human side to this guy, like why he believes what he believes, which they do hint at a little bit with his backstory, which I also didn't think was that well done. How can nobody put together who this guy was? But they just don't try to show any humanity to this guy. They just say, he's evil. Boom. Done. And I think that's really betraying the message. You can have a guy get to a point where he is beyond saving, but I think you need to show he was a person who could be influenced like any of us could, because that's the idea. It's like
That's
the
a
Lorax.
terrorized
Anyone
school.
could become this guy, but it became like the Lorax, where there's just this generic bad guy we can throw all our hate into and say, boo, it's all his fault, boo. And the show just feels like it's smarter and better than that. Because because of this, we also get the major climax we see in all of these shows now. Don't you know there's gonna be some major monster they have to fight? Don't you know it's gonna all tie into some big obvious
very
horror?
monstrosity.
Don't you know when one of the main characters apparently
That's
died?
definitely a bad thing, my
Did I
own.
already see half a season where the main characters spend time in our world and then have to go back to the fictional world, and a whole bunch of glowy stuff happens with people crying and somebody realizing who they really were all the time? It just feels so done now. To me, a real threat would be something like a cute little cuddly character, like the one from Cats Don't Dance. I was trying to make the world all bright and colorful and not so strange and weird, but ironically enough, they do give us that. Yeah, there's this kid character called the Collector who has a really interesting backstory and wants to make everything bright and colorful and everybody's his toys and everything, and they do flesh out the human side of him while also
That's
making
very
him a villain.
mythical.
This is great. This is what I would have loved.
I guess
the whole
it's a
show
pretty
to be
much
around,
exactly
but
the
even
thing.
when he starts to be the main focus, in comes Bellows again, because, you know, we gotta put our obvious commentary over the story, and for me, it was so dull, so generic, and so recycled. But okay, before you kill me, that's my personal take. And I think objectively, for this type of show in modern day, this is still a character that works fine. This is a show that's also trying to entertain the kids, and they are going to throw in some tropes that, yes, maybe adults have seen over and over and we're tired of and we caught on to, but kids want at the end. But I guess when a show like this starts off making fun of certain tropes, like one of my favorite episodes is kind of disproving the whole idea of
This
the
is
shows in one,
definitely
like
the
why
best
it's
thing
been
on my
overdone,
own.
it can be manipulative, and maybe it shouldn't be done so much, but then kind of continues with these tropes that's also being done too much is kind of manipulative too. It feels like a downgrade. But again, objectively, I can't say it's bad. It still gets across the message well enough. It still unites the characters together. It still makes the bad guys look bad, but have a little wiggle room for good. Well, again, some of them, not the main baddie. But for the part of the show that has earned the right to just be a kid show, this is okay. But I feel like shows like this have two more goes with this type of character. Someone who's just irredeemably evil, and that's it. Even Jack Horner is funny. You can make him irredeemably evil, just add something unique to it. And Bellows, to me, is nothing unique. But he's not enough to ruin the show by any means. Just drag it down from what I would pretty much consider a perfect show otherwise. But also, like I said, I don't think everyone's gonna have the same reaction I do. Because I do think this show is trying to hit everyone, but let's face it,
Still
it's
with the
trying to hit
memories
certain
coming
groups of
by
people
to
more
this
than
time.
others. I do think there are going to be quite a few folks that are going to connect to it more than I
Still
am,
not
or at
really
least certain
connection
elements
to
more than I am.
this.
For me, I connected to the strange world, the strange characters, and the great comedy. I did hear a lot about how this show was supposed to have more seasons, but Disney kind of screwed them over, so they had to squeeze a lot in the last few episodes and kind of call that a season. But honestly, I thought a lot of that worked better than what most people were building up. A lot of people were saying it's really awkward sometimes, and I didn't really get that. Again, all the awkward stuff I kind of just got from the Bellows character. To a point where, like I said, I really wish the Collector was the big bad guy in all this. But yes, at the same time, this is a show that also kind of wants to celebrate its tropes. It wants to also incorporate all the tropes that something like Adventure Time and Gravity Falls and so forth have also incorporated.
Still with the evil
especially
ones
when the main
ahead.
character is obsessed with shows and animes and drawings and stuff like that. It makes sense. So, I definitely strongly recommend this. If you like things that are weird and odd and crazy, bizarre worlds, this is definitely for you. And if not, well, you're probably not watching me anyway. The problems I think it has, I don't think everyone else is going to consider a problem, so either you're going to get a great show that's going to have some distracting faults, or
Not bad
you're
for a
just
good
gonna
old
get a great
monster.
It seems to have a diehard fan base, and it isn't difficult to see why. It's very likable, very creative, very funny, combines a lot of what many animation audiences enjoy, yet does so in a way that creates something really exciting in it. It may not be perfect, but goddamn, it comes pretty close.
Wow. We'll see you next time.
Bye guys. Thanks for watching.
Well, thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye.